I suppose I see myself as a cook and a food writer, food explorer, maybe. My name's Anna Fidler. I live in this beautiful place, which is wonderful. I am its custodian with my family. I am a cook by trade. I've spent my life living in many countries, grew up in Africa, spent 3 or 4 years in Asia. I've worked in the Caribbean, and everywhere I've gone, I've just built up a knowledge of food. I love cooking for people, and I love creating environments which bring people together and enable them to just enjoy food and then enjoy company. We're in the grounds of Hanmill, which is where my husband grew up. It's quite a wonderful place. Wake up in the morning, sit and have a coffee, probably end up with a muntjac deer wandering past your feet on its way down to the river, kingfishers, otters. It's very good for the soul. So we are at the point where the Kennet and the Lambourne sort of pull together and then run into the Thames at Reading. The main mill building sits over the Kennet and it runs under the house. And in fact, this mill oddly had a horizontal wheel. So the wheel sat underneath the building. So there's a huge tunnel underneath the house for that. And we're also part of the Kennet and Avon Canal. And then we've got the Lambourne coming in from the north-east. So there's water everywhere. We have some amazing produce in Berkshire in general, but if we're talking about the river itself, a lot of fishing goes on here. So we've got, people who will come up with, trout and things like that from the Kennet, which is great. And then crayfish, which is a product that a lot of British people just don't eat. But on the continent and obviously in the south of the USA, it's big business, but we do have them here. Not many indigenous ones left, unfortunately. We've had a bit of an invasion since the 70s, but there is a lot of crayfish in the river. The invasive species, the American signal crayfish, were introduced as a food source into the UK in the 70s, and unfortunately it took over. So I suppose for most people know the story of the red and grey squirrels and how we now have like a very small number of red squirrels left. White claw crayfish is the same, and the problem is as well is that they're invasive for the indigenous population of crayfish, they're also quite destructive to other wildlife because they'll eat fish eggs and things like that as well, so they can be quite a pest. They burrow into the banks, that's where they live, so they can create a huge amount of erosion to riverbanks and reservoirs and canals and things like that, doing great damage. Yeah, they are a pest. They are seen as that way. They're seen as an invasive pest in this country. Tastes nice though. You'd get local fishermen who would catch them, or people would catch them for themselves. I mean, my husband used to do it as a kid. You'd be able to catch crayfish and other river fish like pike and trout and sell them to the local restaurants, and you'd sell the crayfish live, and most chefs in those days, that's exactly what they want. But the law has changed in this country. There's nowhere that you can buy crayfish live. So the guys at Kennet Crayfish, which are a local company just down the river from here, have evolved a different way of capturing and preparing crayfish. Andrew is literally someone who is obsessed with crayfish and has been most of his life. And in the 6 degrees of separation, especially in small market towns like this, he and I actually know each other from school all those years ago. And so we've reconnected a bit, and obviously we share the same water. Comes from my house and ends up at his business. And he has been fishing and learning about crayfish, I'd say nearly 50 years. His initial business really was selling live crayfish and exporting them and all that lovely stuff. And he has licenses up and down the Kennet, probably from about Hungerford to the west down to Reading, which he's built up over the years. And then he has a lot of local kind of gamekeepers, fisheries, things like that, that would want him to come and get rid of the crayfish for them. And when the law changed, he developed a way of being able to humanely kill and prepare crayfish on a commercial scale. I believe he's the only person in the UK who does it.
So, here's one of the last traps for today. There's no bait left in it, which is always a good sign you're going to catch. Oh, that's a good one. Just look at it. This is a male, very clean, but that's probably about 10 or 12 years old. They do get a lot bigger than this. Biggest one I've caught from the river is 252 grams from the Kennet, but some of the ones in the lakes, in the Cotswolds, places like that, they get miles bigger. Probably an easier lifestyle. The river life's quite hard. That's why our fish are more active, because they're always on the move, I think. But definitely ours are really high quality. We empty about 150 traps a day. They're an invasive species, a pest, so we take everything. A lot of the inferior ones we do get in from lakes and that go as animal food, and our smaller ones we turn into different products. Gin's one that's proven very popular. We just won an award at the World Gins, and a silver award there, and we just picked up a bronze as well. So it is popular, but it was just a crazy idea really. I thought there was everything else is in a gin. There's 1,000 or 10,000 different gins. Why not crayfish? Because they're sweet. They're not as if they're fishy, which is the thing we've got to get across. They're very sweet, delicate taste, and it works. Well, it's basically distilled in Hampton Oil, only 6 miles down the road from here, Hawkridge Distillers, and it's watercress, dill and lemon, and the shells from the crayfish claws, and it just works. We got very lucky, to be honest. The larger ones we sell for human consumption. Years ago we used to be able to export everything before the ban on live sales. We went from doing 3 to 4 tonnes to 0 overnight. Well, we've had to adapt. And the reason was to stop people spreading crayfish all over the country. They said if somebody bought them off us live, took them up to Yorkshire, say, and then thought, oh, I'm not going to cook these, and chucked them in the river and then spread up there. So we've got to basically adapt. And we are doing, I think, slowly. That's the ultimate goal, really. Find a solution for crayfish in this country.
People have different opinions about the best way to manage crayfish populations. There's a big contingent of professionals who feel that they should just be left and that they'll sort themselves out. But then there's the other school of thought that says actually, like in Scandinavia, where crayfish really are a big part of their diets and people seek them out, they're a delicacy. If we can bring around that kind of eating habit here, then actually we wouldn't have so much of a problem. They are really sustainable because there are so many of them. Just think of them like a big prawn. I mean, that's really it. So there's a certain amount of prep involved, but it's worth it, I suppose. That's what I say to people, is that, you know, the meat of a crayfish, because it's freshwater, it does have a very different taste and texture to your kind of classic sort of shellfish taste that most people know, which would be the prawn, crab, sort of lobster arena. The main way that people eat them is whole, you know, the classic thing you see, whether you're looking at people eating them at Louisiana, crawfish broil, or watching Scandinavians sit around with little glasses of schnapps. It's lots of brown paper, it's lots of bowls and finger bowls with water in to clean you up, and then you're just shelling away and eating the tails. We're going to focus on a crayfish boil, which is essentially a lovely spicy broth that they cook, and then they bung in new potatoes and sweet corn and peppers and onions and all sorts of lovely stuff. Every family probably has their own recipe, so I'm sure I'm going to upset a load of people, but it's my version. And that is quite a communal thing, and I'm going to cook it here outside. Then we're going to make a po' boy, which is really just a crayfish sandwich. I mean, it comes from New Orleans during the strikes in the 20s. So that would be quite a nice one with a lovely spicy sort of remoulade sauce, which is very Creole in its orientation. We're going to also have a platter of crayfish. I'm just going to do them naked so that everyone can see how to open them, how to eat them, and we're going to just have them with a little bit of a dip, a bit of garlic butter, nice and simple, something that people can sit there and sort of fire onto the fire pit. And then we're going to taste it all on a few cocktails using Kennet Crayfish gin. So we are going to do a twinkle, which sounds really, really girly. So if the boys want to drink it, they can change it to a gin and elderflower cocktails. And then a red snapper, which is essentially a Bloody Mary with gin. So classic ingredients, but gin instead of vodka.